There we go. Good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And this morning I'm going to invite Ira and Julia to kick us off with a song.
Oh, yay! Woohoo! I am one of many, I'm not one alone. When I sing from the center of my soul, I shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Hey, hey, hey. Shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Well, the small-minded man will lock up everyone he knows, but the sage ducks his head when the moon is low, and all night long he's dropping keys to the beautiful prisoners at his knees. All those beautiful rowdy prisoners must be free. I am one of many, I'm not one alone. When I sing from the center of my soul, I shine like a diamond in the old king's throne. Hey, hey. Shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Well, doubt came along and captured me, stuck me in a trunk at the bottom of the sea. A wise old sage had mercy on me. Words of wisdom set me free. All those beautiful words of wisdom set me free. I am one of many, I'm not one alone. When I sing from the center of my soul, I shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Hey, hey. Shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Well, a king takes a diamond off his throne, sticks it in the ground where the seeds are sown. Up from the ground comes a grove of trees, sprouting words to the wise in the shape of keys. Poet and the wise man climbing trees so they can sing us songs like these. I am one of many, I'm not one alone. When I sing from the center of my soul, I shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Hey, hey. Shine like a diamond in the old one's throne. Hey, hey. Shine like a diamond in the old one's throne.
Little poetry from Hafez.
I love that. You know what I loved was the line about planting the diamond as the seed. What a beautiful line. And a great visual, because that's what we want to do is plant those jewels.
Right.
We'll grow into something great. Anyway. Good morning again. And I would like to invite our practitioner of the day, Ralane Clarke, to kick us off with an invocation. Morning, Ralane.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So let's just close our eyes and feel this beautiful presence of spirit, and feel it through the energies connecting us throughout the world and right now in One Heart, One Mind community. And I just know that the springtime energies are arriving, and it just feels so good to feel the presence of God, which is always in nature. There's always just this divine order with nature that's just so perfect and so wonderful and in sync with each and every one of us as we connect in with God and spirit. And I'm really grateful for this morning, for all of you being here with this God presence of love and connection and just beauty and flow. And I'm so knowing that the music is it's just so wonderful, and it just inspires us to higher and higher levels of vibration. And Reverend Michelle's talk, and each and every one of you, your presence here and everything, whether you speak or not, is just really adding to this collective energy of a higher vibration. And so I'm so grateful for the shift in consciousness that's already happening. I'm so grateful for the service for each and every one of you. And I just release this prayer into divine law, knowing it is already so, and so it is. So today I'd like to tell a little story. When I was a little girl, I loved cats and dogs and all animals, so that's not a surprise to most of you. The cats and dogs were often outside those days, and so they would be roaming around, and they'd usually follow me home from school. I was a shy child, and I felt solace and comfort being with animals, and I had a very strong connection with them. When I was in middle school, about 12 years old, I began volunteering as a teacher's aide with students with disabilities. And I became very drawn to helping students, especially those that had their accessibility limited through society. While attending college, I worked as a respite caregiver with families with children with disabilities. When I transferred to State University, I wanted to major in animal behavior communication, as I loved animals and was also drawn to working with them. I saw myself traveling to Africa or Asia to work with orangutans or three-toed sloths or many other kinds of wildlife to study animal behavior. As I began State University, the animal behavior program was canceled. So although I was very disappointed, I focused on a psychology degree, working with people, since I really enjoyed my psychology classes. One evening, I was hired to go to a family's house to provide respite for their disabled daughter. When I arrived, I learned from the parents that their daughter had an unusual disability. She was still the size of a baby, but was actually much older, in her late teens or early 20s. At that time, I only had some experience with divine energy, mostly feeling this presence in nature. So when I looked in the crib to greet her, she was tiny and could not speak. She made happy sounds and appeared to be smiling. I was truly amazed feeling her presence, her loving energies, her gifts of warmth and beauty that she was sharing with me. Mostly her presence was beyond any words that I could express, and I just felt like being with her. Her parents adored her, and obviously parents and daughter gave and received all this divine love to each other, and felt her strong, gentle presence, and talked about her divinity to me. I never forgot how I felt with her all through my life. And through this experience, I was drawn to work with many people. This amazing daughter showed me that everyone has gifts, even those that are marginalized. As I became a counselor and a teacher, I continued to examine what my gifts are to share with others, and worked on sharing these gifts to help those I was working with. After all, as I became a counselor, what I really learned was that everyone that I counseled and taught and prayed with also had gifts to share. And I also learned that, people and children with disabilities are just children and people. Our connection to who we are as a unique potential are the gifts that we have inside of us, and our boundaries help define us. Living an authentic life is sharing our gifts and expressing our full potentiality with others. Others are waiting to receive our gifts, and we don't want to disappoint them. Like that daughter I cared for that night, she was just waiting for me to show up so I could receive her gifts, even though I thought I was there to care for her. I'm so grateful that I showed up that night to receive her unique gifts, and it so changed my life.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story, Ralane. There's the affirmation for.
Yes, I have an affirmation for this month. Today, like the changing seasons, I am open to the flow of life. I welcome support wherever it comes from, and I'm receptive to every source of inspiration. I'm a magnet for love and happiness, and I'm so grateful for life. And so it is.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. What a wonderful story. I've heard a lot of your stories. I've never heard that one. That's an amazing story. And you
Yeah.
put it so well. And yeah, that touched me. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Really beautiful. So now we get to have more music.
Whee!
You're singing already.
That's a
good.
lot of fun. All right.
With the theme of boundaries, we chose this next song called Let Your Roots Go Down.
Fear comes to town, knocks the people down, drives the masses mad. Nearly everyone around you is feeling sad. And fear jumps in the river, says it's the only way to go. And everyone around you saying go with the flow until you fall into the sea. Flow until you fall into the sea of misery. Or be like the trees planted by the streams, bringing forth the fruit in the seasons of our dreams. Let your roots go down into the cool riverbed. Let the waters all go crazy on the surface overhead. Don't be hypnotized. Plant yourself among the wise. Let your roots go down. Rise. Your leaves will never wither. You'll succeed in all you do. And you will bring the shade to everyone surrounding you. Be like the trees planted by the streams, bringing forth the fruit in the seasons of our dreams. Let your roots go down into the cool riverbed. Let the waters all go crazy on the surface overhead. Be like the tree, like the tree. Be like the tree, like the tree. Be like the tree, like the tree. Be like the tree.
Beautiful. You like the trees. I love that.
There we go. Little
My God,
premonition for spring.
wherever we lived, yeah, perfect for spring. We were just talking about the vernal equinox is tomorrow. Happy spring almost. Wherever we lived when I was a kid, my dad always planted trees, and he would say this saying, I don't even know who said it. Those who plant trees love others besides themselves. I love it. It's true, because the beauty of the tree comes way after it's planted. Well, so good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see your faces, and welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living and our online Sunday service and our wonderful community. So as you know, probably, if you've been here before, all month we've been talking about how we cultivate and nurture our authentic self. You know, that part of us that is infinite and limitless in our oneness with Spirit, God, the all that is. And that makes today's topic a kind of interesting one, because today's topic is, as Julia was saying, boundaries build bridges is the name of the talk, you know, and it's interesting because in our Science of Mind philosophy, we talk a lot about the limitless and infinite nature of spirit, which we understand is our nature too. So we live in limitless possibility. And we often kind of revel in the idea that any limits we believe we have, we've set ourselves. We have set the limits. Ernest Holmes, our founder, told us that the mind of mankind, he said man, but I'm going to say mankind, is as infinite as mankind's capacity to align with the mind of God. So, you know, this infinite God, we are unlimited in our ability to align with it and to express this limitless possibility in our own lives. You know, we're only limited by the limits we place on ourselves, in other words, through our beliefs. But in truth, there is infinite and limitless possibility in our oneness with Spirit. So how then are we supported by creating boundaries in our human lives? It kind of seems like a contradiction, but I've got this great story to help us understand it. And the story goes like this. So the parents of a 25-year-old man went to see a therapist with a request that the therapist tell them how to fix their son. When the therapist asked where their son was, the parents said, well, he didn't want to come because he doesn't think he has a problem. And then the parents launched into this long story about all the problems they thought their son had. How all his life they'd given him everything he needed to succeed, how they paid for school and supported him so he didn't have to work while he was at school, and how in recent years he developed a problem with drugs and alcohol, and he'd gotten kicked out of school and he couldn't keep a job. So after the parents had told this whole long story to the therapist said, I think your son's right. He didn't have a problem. And of course, the parents were, why do you mean he doesn't have a problem? Did you hear anything we just told you? And the therapist said, oh, yeah, I heard you. But he doesn't have a problem. You have a problem. He gets to do pretty much anything he wants to do. No problem. You pay, you fret, you worry, you plan, you exert your energy to keep him going. He doesn't have a problem because you take care of everything for him. The way to help your son is to let him have some problems. And for you to clarify some boundaries for yourself, so that he's responsible for his own life, so that he's accountable for himself. And then the therapist went on to give this example. He said, what if you had a neighbor who never watered his lawn, but whenever you watered your lawn, it fell on his lawn instead of yours? Your lawn would begin to turn brown and start to die, but the neighbors would be doing just fine. But if you defined the property line and you fixed your sprinkler so it's only watering your lawn would be green and lush, and your neighbor would have to be responsible for taking care of his own lawn. A little boundary clarification would probably do the trick. So what's the spiritual principle that we realize by creating boundaries? You know, I believe that it's that in cultivating our own awareness, our own oneness with God, we're empowered to create unique, individualized, meaningful, and joyful lives. And that we can consciously participate with universal law and universal love, and we can allow others to do the same for themselves. You know, in the physical world, boundaries are pretty easy to see, you know, fences, signs, walls, moats with alligators in them, that kind of thing. You know, they give a clear message. Don't go past this point. This is my space, and I'm responsible for it. But emotional and spiritual boundaries, they're much more intangible and way less obvious. But these are the boundaries that help us to cultivate our authentic self and allow others to cultivate theirs, you know, to grow and expand our understanding and our connection with who we truly are. It's in living our human lives that we're given the opportunities to discover the power that's inherently within us. Being human gives us these infinite possibilities to grow and mature and connect with that authentic self, that witness self, that God self, however you want to call it. And to discover what's possible for us. You know, we're these individualized expressions of God. We say that all the time. We are these individualized expressions of God. And we're the only ones that can connect with that self, with that authentic self, and express it in and through everything we do in our human lives at our point of connection, at our point of consciousness. Sure, you know, we can inspire, we can motivate, we can support each other. We can do that with compassion and kindness and love. And that's honestly, that's wildly important for us as human beings. But we can't make that connection for anyone else. And no one else can make it for us. And in our humanness, boundaries serve a function. They show me where I end and you begin, where my lawn ends and yours begins. Taking responsibility for our own lives and letting others take responsibility for theirs opens us up to all these possibilities that we delve into this richness of who and what we are and what we're connected to. You know, it allows us to fully explore those options. In our oneness with Source, we connect and we cultivate that authentic self. And in the interest of being completely transparent here, the story about the 25-year-old son hit pretty close to home for me. I completely understand the desire to help someone by giving them everything they need to succeed. But as I've discovered the hard way, that desire can also hinder someone else's ability to learn the valuable life lessons that we learn through having problems. And it can cut off their opportunities for personal growth and ours as well. You know, it's taken me a kind of a long time to identify the difference between codependency and support. We use that word codependency all the time. What it means is that I want to do everything for you so that you don't have to do it. I want to help you in a way that truly is not helping. You know, as opposed to supporting them so that they can do it for themselves. Yeah, life's fun. In our human lives, we live within ourselves. You know, no one else is in our head or even in our heart. You know, we have our own point of consciousness. I led us through the guided meditation this morning by moving that consciousness around. You know, it's not housed only in our body, it's infinite, but we're the only ones that can experience and express it right from here. Nobody else is in our head or in our heart. And we are an expression of that greater consciousness that encompasses everything. But we inhabit our point of expression. You know, the thoughts we think and the feelings we feel are our own. They're within us. And I can't help but think that there is real value and purpose in that. You know, we get to be responsible for the things that make us up. You know, we get to deal with what is in our own soul. And boundaries help us to define what that is. There's a line in the Bible in Galatians where St. Paul tells his followers, let's see, what is it? Carry each other's burdens and in that way fulfill the law of Christ. Well, the law of Christ for us as metaphysicians is to recognize our oneness, that we're all these individualized expressions. We all live within the one life of God. And sometimes our burdens, as Paul put it, are way too big and way too heavy, and they seem way too much for us to carry. And we need the support of others to find our own strength and to find our own resources to support us while we carry the load. But nobody else can do it for us. We have to find our own way. And we find that through our connection to God, through our authentic self. You know, we can be there and support each other with compassion and care and love, but we have to understand what's mine to do and what's yours to do. And that supports everyone. It supports us as individuals. There are, you know, whenever I start to kind of prepare my talk and do some research for Sunday, you know, I come across all of these examples. There are so many examples of how personal boundaries support us and also how they support those around us to find their own. You know, there's, how about Jesus's admonition in Mark 12, to love your neighbor as yourself. You notice he didn't say, set your own needs completely aside and only care for others. You know, as I said a minute ago, we live within our own point of consciousness. We connect with love within us first, and then we extend that love into the world. Love your neighbor as yourself. First, we must love ourselves and care for ourselves, and then we can love others for who they are. You know, the Christian mystic Thomas Merton. Well, he's been gone for a while, but he was amazing. Anyway, he said that the beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we only love the reflection of ourselves that we find in them. And, you know, we extend our love to love who others are, not to fit them in our own image. And what about the Good Samaritan story? We probably all know that story. The Good Samaritan took care of the injured man, but nobody else would help. And he offered him support when it was needed, but then he went off and took care of his own business. He took the injured man to the inn, and then he told the innkeeper to take care of him, and he'd come back and pay him for whatever he needed. He took care of his own business. You know, we say in the Science of Mind philosophy that we individualize universal love. I always see it as like this funnel funneling into us. We individualize universal love, and then we feel it at our point of consciousness. And then we universalize it back out into the world. We fall in love with our own God self, our own authentic self, so that we can love everybody else's authentic self. You know, and our personal boundaries support us in doing that. Another example, Karen Drucker has a wonderful song that is entitled N.O. is My New Yes. And her lyrics talk all about how she's spent her life with a disease to please, saying yes when she should have said no, or when she really meant no. And as a recovering people pleaser, I completely understand what she's talking about. Her lyrics say, let's see if I can remember. N.O. is my new yes. When she says yes to someone else, she's really saying yes to herself. When she says no to someone else, she's really saying yes to herself. I'll get it right. Reminding us again that we must care for ourselves first before we care from others. We can't give from an empty cup. I always think of that example of the air mask on the airplane. They always tell you to put yours on first. Oh, we always hear about how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and I think that's true. But it's also true that every single part is important, that the whole would not be the whole. It could not be complete without all of the parts. The parts matter. You and I are the parts. And I believe that our authentic self knows that it knows it's a vital part of the whole. and it remembers where it came from. And when we connect with that, we remember who we are and where we came from and why we're here. We know where everybody else comes from as well. And so we treat them like an important part of the whole. And understanding this wholeness, at least it does this for me, and maybe it does it for you. It leads us to a sense of respect, a reverence almost for all the other parts of the whole. And as we revere all of God's creation, we recognize that to do harm to someone else is to do harm to ourselves. And when we consciously connect with our authentic self, we realize that all living things are one with this great whole. And then we kind of naturally fall into thoughts and feelings and behaviors of non-judgment and loving kindness and compassion and love. I read somewhere that that Ernest Holmes would often dine with a glass of weeds from his garden on his dinner table instead of a glass of or a vase of flowers, as a reminder that the one life flows equally through every living thing. And the only difference between the weeds and roses is the value or the judgment that we place on them. Honestly, I still think I prefer roses, but that's the thing. We can have preferences without judgment. We can prefer something without making something else not as wonderful or not as good. Another personal boundary, and this, I thought about this a lot as I was putting the talk together, because it sounds like it's not a boundary, but it kind of is. Another personal boundary that I really believe supports us is humility, which might seem odd. How is humility a boundary? But hear me out. Years ago, in a meditation, I found myself kind of washed in a feeling of being exalted into the universal presence. It's almost impossible to articulate, really, because it was an experience and wasn't words. But I experienced a sense of expansion. But I was still me. I was still a point of consciousness. But I was huge in my oneness with the all that is. And the message that I received from this meditation experience was that I am humbled and exalted, which encompasses much more than just our individualized selves. It's always stuck with me that in this oneness, in this all that is, I was myself and yet so much more. So I was humbled in my connection, and yet I was exalted into this larger part of who and what I am, and what I learned from that was that I'm a necessary and valuable part of this whole and exalted life, as is everyone else and everything else. And that in my acknowledgement of that, in my understanding of this connection at such a deep level, I move out of any sense of blame or judgment or any sense of otherness. At least that's the story that I got out of that in my humility, I am exalted into recognizing and honoring and revering everything and everyone else. So in that sense, humility became this personal boundary for me that connected me to the exalted whole. I hope it made sense. The experience was pretty profound for me. So I want to share one more story before we end today. So, the story is that there were these two brothers, and they lived on adjoining farms. They'd been farming side by side for like 40 years. They shared machinery and labor and goods as they needed to, and there was no problem at all. Everything was fine. And then one day they had this small misunderstanding. It was something minor, nothing much. And then what began as this small misunderstanding grew into this major argument. Have you ever had something like that happen? I find that when that happens, it's never really about the small misunderstanding. It's usually about something else that hasn't been communicated well. But anyway, this small misunderstanding exploded into an exchange of bitter words, and then it was followed by weeks of silence. And they hadn't spoken to each other for a very long time. And then one morning, in the middle of all this, there was a knock on the elder brother's door. And he opened it and he saw this man standing there with a carpenter's toolbox. And he's standing there and the man said, "Hey, I'm looking for a few days of work. Do you happen to have a few small jobs that I could do around here on your farm?" And the elder brother said, "You know what? Yes, I do. I have a job for you. Look across the creek over there at that other farm. That's my neighbor. In fact, it's my younger brother, and we don't get along. And last week, he dug this wider passage for all the water to flow over to his farm. But he ended up creating this big, wide mess in the creek in between our farms. And I'm sure he did it just to annoy me. And I want you to build me something so that I don't have to look at him anymore, that I don't have to see his farm anymore from across the creek." And the carpenter said, "Sure, I get it. I understand. I think I can handle this situation." And the elder brother left. He went off to town for the day, and the carpenter got to work. And at about sunset, the older brother returned. And the carpenter had just finished his job, and the elder brother's eyes opened wide, his jaw dropped. The carpenter had not done what the older brother imagined. Instead of a fence or a wall, he built a bridge stretching from one side of the creek to the other side. It was a beautiful bridge, beautiful woodworked handrails. It was gorgeous. And to the elder brother's surprise, his younger brother was coming across the bridge to meet him with this great big smile and his arms open wide to hug him. And the younger brother said, "You are really kind and humble. You know, after all I've done and said to you, you've still shown me kindness and compassion, and you've shown me that our bond can never be broken. And I'm truly sorry for my behavior." And then he hugged his older brother, and they saw the carpenter. He's picking up his toolbox and he's hoisting it up on his shoulder. And the older brother says, "No, wait, stay a few days. I have lots of other projects for you." And the carpenter said, "No, I'd love to stay, but I have many more bridges to build." So I love that story. You know, and how often do we let our, let's see, how can I put this without sounding negative? We let our inability to create strong and firm boundaries for ourselves cause all these ruffles and problems within our interpersonal relationships. You know, and I can't help but think that the best boundaries that we can create are created by solidly standing on spiritual principles, on solidly standing on the love that we feel with our connection and our oneness to our authentic self and to the rest of creation, the rest of life, the rest of this magnificent, exalted one life. You know, if we're true to ourselves, if we are in integrity with the spiritual principles that we profess, then we are not only loving and kind to ourselves, but we are loving and kind to everything and everyone else as well. A strong sense of who we are in God naturally creates these personal boundaries. We want to nurture and support ourselves, and then that leads us to nurturing and supporting everyone else that we encounter on this magnificent and sometimes interesting human journey. So I invite you to do that this week, to know who you are as you walk through your day, and never forget that in nurturing and caring for yourself, you're actually nurturing and caring for everything else that is within this magnificent one life. So let's just go into a little prayer here for a moment. So I invite you to take a nice deep centering breath in with me. centered in that experience of the exalted life of the divine, and humbled by our significance and our value within that life. Feel our oneness, feel our unity with this magnificent, open, infinite field of possibilities of love, joy at being human. So I speak my word for and about each and every person that is on this call this morning. I speak my word about myself, about you, about all of God's creation, that there is an opening, a new way of knowing and being ourselves in our unique and individualized expression that that universalizes the experience of the divine in and through everything we do in our daily lives. And that brings us deep joy and bliss and good that until today has been unimagined. So I just know that reveling in this all that is, in this exalted sense of ourselves, that we express and experience so much good. And I'm so grateful for that. And I just sit in that gratitude and that expansion of beingness that gratitude brings us up. Thank you, God, that. And I sit in that truth. I sit in that oneness. I know it is so. I release it into the capable hands of law, acknowledging that all is well and signifying together that all is well by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Okay. Oh, my time on my computer says 1111. I don't know why, but whenever I see repetitive numbers, I always know I'm right on track. So, there we go. We're right on track. So I'm trying to remember, is it you, Lisa, who is doing the benediction today? Yes, it is. Oh, I remembered. Woohoo!
It is I, it is I. Huh. Oh, well, as we're sitting in that state of gratitude, it seems perfectly appropriate to think about our gratitude for being here this morning and having this wonderful service and all being a part of one heart, one mind. And so, because it is an organization that we love and a community that we love, this is a time that we have the opportunity to give back. And so if you are ready to give back, on your screen, you will see the ways that you can do that through the Venmo app or mailing to Jim. And I think you all know what you've all done it before, so you know what to do this time.
And he's got the address in the.
Oh yeah, in the chat, it's that address, I guess.
Very cool.
Okay, so if we could have the blessing.
Oops, we can. There we go. Can you see that?
No, I see the ways to give.
Okay.
Oh wait, down at the bottom, will it flash up?
Hang on a minute, I'll put it on. Sometimes it changes and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. Can you see that, Lisa?
I see a blank screen.
Really?
Yep.
Is everybody else seeing your blank screen? Wow, that's weird. Okay. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I don't remember the words, but why don't we just know that we are blessing from the gifts given to us, we are returning the gifts to Spirit, and that we are nurturing a community that loves and serves us.
Are you seeing that?
No.
Oh, well, I'll read it. But thank you. That was perfect, Lisa. Everything flows from the nature of God's good. We receive from this flow. We give from this flow. We give in gratitude and in love. We have faith in the infinite giving nature of Spirit. And so it is. I don't know why I didn't share. That's very bizarre.
Because my computer plays games with me. I'm sure that's why.
Well, you know, technology. She's a fickle girl. So Yvonne, you got some stuff for us?
Yes, I did also see something that came up on chat asking about whether we want people to use the address that Jim has on there or the post office box. It wasn't on there, post office box, wasn't it? So Monday evening, we have our prayer group from 6 to 6:20. And please come and join us as we silently pray for ourselves and for one heart, one mind. And remembering praying together leads us to the achievement of our dreams. So it's pretty nice stuff. Then Tuesday evening from 6 to 7, we're continuing our study or our talk and review of Pam Grout's book, E Squared. I think you've all seen me hold that up. And this is more fun. I just love it. We're working this week on experiment number 3, which is, get this, the Albee-Einstein principle of energy, which we would usually say Albert Einstein, but she has this great sense of humor. So she calls it Albee-Einstein. I think it's great. And these experiments are just proving to you that your thoughts really do create your reality. And you can find the reading online this week, or if you haven't read it, that's fine too, because there's a lot of interesting information that you'll get just from being there. So I hope some of you will join us. We're really having some fun with it. And I personally am learning a lot. And I like to learn when it's fun. So it's perfect. Don't forget that we still have unexpected income going on, and we should be looking for it. I've noticed in our numbers that we haven't had anybody putting any in there, and I do have some, but I'm trying to wait till it gets a little bit bigger before I send my 25 cents in. But you need to remember that we have that going on. We also still have the daily readings by our practitioners and Michelle every day on our CSL YouTube channel. So you can don't forget about those. And then I just wrote a note to myself to just remind you that if it's possible to support our center with financially, that really pushes us up to keep up with what we really want going on. We really want our center to be flourishing. And so that's just a reminder. And that's all I have. I got nothing more.
That's it. That's all she wrote, as my grandfather used to say.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Yvonne, very, very much. And Lisa, if you want to do the benediction, then we'll have Ira and Julia take us out with a closing song. You're still muted.
So sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, well, if we can join together in our unity of one heart, one mind. And I feel so grateful for this service. And so it's a blessed service with Reverend Michelle and her talk, which is always, always profound and nurturing. And also Ralane's wonderful story and the music and everything about the service. I'm just so grateful. And I know that each of us goes forth with that sense of that phrase from the Levin song, shine from the center of my soul. And then I think that is the core of what Reverend Michelle was talking about, because then the boundaries you need to make are clear, and the flowing forth in freedom is also clear. And so I'm so grateful for this service, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of the persons that are here and connected. And I release my word into the law by saying, so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So it is. So here's authenticity. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's a good week to pop back to the old movie Harold and Maude.
Well, if you wanna sing out, sing out. And if you wanna be free, be free. There's a million ways to be. You know that there are. Wanna sing high, sing high. And if you wanna sing low, sing low. There's a million ways to go. You know that there are. You can do what you want. The opportunity's on. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true. And you can make it undo. You'll see. Aha, it's easy. Aha, you only need to know. And if you wanna say yes, say yes. And if you wanna say no, say no. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. And if you wanna be me, be me.
It's a lot of fun.
And if you wanna be you, be you. 'Cause there's a million things to do. You know that there are. You can do what you want. The opportunity's on. And if you find a new way, now you can do it today. You can make it all true. Now you can make it undo. You'll see. Aha, it's easy. Aha, you only need to know. So if you wanna sing out, sing out. And if you wanna be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million ways to be. You know that there are. 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 You know that there are.
Oh, it's
Woohoo!
Woo!
Now, is that Cat Stevens?
yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's what I'm like, I think that's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that song.
Yay.
Yeah, he knows how to be himself. You know, he turned into Yusuf.
That's
Yourself.
correct.
Yes.
And then,
I went through the changes, went to the extreme, and then came back.
yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he didn't, for how many years, he didn't even pick up a guitar
Yeah.
because he felt that that was, I don't know, somebody that he just didn't want to relate to. And then he came back and then he gave us some other lovely music.
Yeah.
Interesting how we travel through life in our unique expressions.
Right.
Exactly.
And how we identify that authentic self in different ways throughout our life. You know, I think it's very, his life, I mean, that's a really interesting path that he chose, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he has several children. And I remember, I think I remember hearing a story just before he made that breakthrough CD that kind of brought him back into the public eye. And his son was saying, you know, why don't you play your guitar anymore? And I think it was at the encouragement of his son that he started to come back. Anyway,
There you go.
That's great.
cool story.
Yeah.
And I mean, his music is kind of the soundtrack of my, my teenage and young adult years.
Right.
Yep, me
Yeah.
too.
He was
One of the first to bring spirituality into the mainstream.
yeah.
Really true. Yeah. Peace Train, Father and Son. I mean, those are great songs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, does anybody have anything? Oh, let's stop the recording.